Hi everyone, welcome back to the Strawberry Lowly channel, which sometimes turns into the Slytherin manifestation channel. This is your friendly neighborhood Slytherin friend. Today I want to talk about how to manifest more money, or more specifically, I prefer more general, all-encompassing terms such as abundance or freedom, which includes financial freedom within that larger definition. Because basically that is what we're referring to 99.99% of the time that we say we want more money, right? It's not that the money itself is going to bring you the happiness or comfort that you deserve. You can't do anything physically with a paper bill or a coin that helps you directly, right? You can't eat it. You can't pull it over yourself like a blanket to keep you warm at night. And most of the time, barring any basic survival needs such as shelter or food, it's not even the thing itself that you can purchase with money that is going to ultimately give you the satisfaction that you're seeking. So instead, what we are after on a more soul level is that feeling of abundance and expansiveness. The I can buy anything I want without being limited by the price tag feeling, where you know you don't have to put an upper limit on what you can spend or what you can or can't do in life based on a physical or perceived lack of wealth. The thing is, you can actually start to embody that feeling of abundance and freedom right now, wherever your starting point is. You don't need the money or even the thing, the car or whatever, to show up in this exact moment for you to start feeling that way. You can decide right now in this exact moment the feeling and state of being that you're going to cultivate and prioritize from now on. Now, most people are already aware of this concept, right? Or they have no trouble understanding it on a conceptual level. It's like, okay, yeah, so I have to feel and act like a millionaire first before I become one in the 3D realm. It makes total sense logically, but they often find that where they get tripped up, and this is including myself as well, especially when I was new to manifestation a couple years ago, where people get tripped up is actually putting this belief into practice. You can talk the talk, but how do you walk the walk? Well, that's what I'm going to hopefully help you with in this video. In my manifesting experience, I want to say it's been about 3 years since I stumbled upon and decided to go full in on conscious manifestation. I've come up with some really unique and tangible techniques. Yeah, but I don't exactly want to call them techniques. I actually believe that techniques are a deeply personal thing. Basically, only you possess the power to know yourself well enough to come up with techniques that get results for you personally. You can get a really good coach or therapist or whoever that may understand your personality type very well, enough so that they can give you some really good pointers. But at the end of the day, your life story, your personality, your circumstances are unique to you and only you. It's different from every single other person out there that has been or ever will be in history. So if you really think about it, only you as an individual can come up with the truly customized optimal techniques for yourself. But even so, I want to give you some, we will just call it new angles or new perspectives to approach things from that really helped me tremendously in manifesting money and abundance quicker and more easily into my life. And I think this may click for you, especially if you are the type of person like I once was, who maybe has some mental blocks when it comes to the idea of just calling actual money into, like, actual cold hard cash into your realm. Maybe you were raised thinking that you had to work extra hard until you almost fell down, until your fingers bled, just to scrape by. Or maybe you think that a 6-figure or 7-figure salary is something that is just out of your reach personally. Like, only a select few chosen people can get that, but you can't because you're not smart enough or you don't have the connections, whatever your limiting beliefs may be. I think these perspectives and approaches that I'm about to describe will be very, very useful in helping you shift and start to change your pre-existing assumptions about money that have not really benefited you up until this point. So number one, my first tip, realize that the application of money itself is actually very, very limited in scope. Money is only one of several avenues through which to obtain your desires. And most of the time, the strongest and deepest desires that we tend to hold universally as human beings cannot even be bought with money anyway. So first of all, the good news is that money itself is actually not even the primary factor in the equation. It never was and never will be, actually. Why is that? Well, because money is a man-made construct, and a relatively recent one when you take into account the entire course of human history, right? Before human beings invented the concept of money, and different currencies and all of that, we had many societies that fed off the land or engaged in barter and trade with neighboring tribes. Edo period, Japan used rice as currency, and of course, every other animal in the animal kingdom, aside from humans, don't abide by the rules of a money economy whatsoever. They don't even have a concept of what it is. In fact, if you took any household pet, let's say, and imbued them with the ability to understand English or whatever other language you speak, and you started talking to them about money and bills and interest rates, this, that, and the third, taxes, they would look at you like you're crazy, right? And I actually think, I love animals and I think it would be amazing to be able to communicate with them on a deeper level, but part of me feels like we're very lucky that we actually have no way to communicate with animals through spoken word, because a lot of our feelings might get hurt if we knew what our pets truly think of us on a daily basis. That's just my personal suspicion. But yeah, so the point is, paying for something with cash out of your wallet is actually only one of several ways to obtain that thing. And again, it's a relatively new thing in human history, right? It's like this artificial transaction that we've created that's only been around for a few centuries or millennia. Yes, of course, the way that things are set up in modern day society, the reality is that there are many things and needs that we have to meet, such as food and shelter, etc., where the most common and practical way is to pay for those things through money. It's still not the only way. And remember that there are far more things in this world that actually money cannot buy, right? No matter how much cash you throw at the situation, you can't buy love, you can't buy general satisfaction with your life choices, or the joy that you get from simply performing a hobby that you enjoy. And do you know why? It's because those things, the feeling of satisfaction and joy that you get from them is real, but money is not. So even just logically speaking, right? How can something that is not real, something that's an artificial construct that has only recently been implemented into society, how can that have any bearing on real, universally experienced human emotions and feeling states? It just doesn't make any sense. And for me, it really helps to remind myself periodically of the limitations of the actual scope of application for money. Because when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it is, like I just said, an artificial construct, conceptualized entirely by human beings. And it's actually quite a limited surface level vehicle to getting the things we want out of life. Just knowing this and reminding myself of it on a regular basis automatically lifts like a huge weight off of my shoulders. When I feel myself starting to get anxiety or stressed out about, oh my god, I want all this stuff and I want to do all these things, but I don't have the funds to cover it. Okay, so that is my basic first step for making that fundamental shift from a primary feeling of lack and frustration into one of openness and abundance. It's the most crucial thing that you first need to address, especially if you have not had the greatest relationship with money throughout your life. The goal moving forward is to keep the momentum going, generate that abundant feeling inside of yourself, and then snowball it, right? So that the effects will compound and you can reap the rewards in the end. Now, for most people, in most cases, just thinking about this philosophically, the way that I've laid out here, can only take you so far, right? It's encouraging at first, but eventually the effect is going to wear off, because there's a part of manifestation that is kind of like hedonistic adaptation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term. That's a topic for another video. I can do that some other day. But basically the idea or the issue is that you can plateau in manifesting just like in any other area of your life, such as weight loss or trying to increase a skill. The way you overcome this in manifestation is the same way, conceptually speaking, as anything else. So for example, if you hit a plateau in your weight loss goals and you can't seem to get below a certain number, if you're determined to lose even more weight and get even lower, well, you're gonna have to switch it up and try something new. See if you can explore some new exercise techniques that will help you get the momentum going again, or try out some new diets, right? Try out some different combination of foods and nutrients that you put in your body on a daily basis to see if you can break through that plateau and start making progress towards your final goal again. You have to shake things up from time to time, and this same principle applies to manifesting money as well. You can seek out new perspectives and new techniques to add to the positive foundation, like mindset foundation that you've already established. So when it comes to money in particular, I have found that As contradictory as this may sound, the way you continue to cultivate the feeling of richness and abundance in your life is actually to concentrate on areas other than money directly. Really, anything and everything other than money you should focus on. Because again, like I was saying before, the money itself is actually kind of like the last priority, the last part of the equation. So let me now just get into a couple of the tricks and actual things that I have been doing as of late that I found has been really useful in propelling me forward and kind of avoiding the fall into that plateau state. So I guess this would be my number 2 tip. Prioritize your feelings, your time, your comfort, your fill in the blank over money. There are many things in this world that are way more significant, way more important to the human experience other than money, which again is only a man-made construct, as I keep saying a million times in this video. So what you need to do is start to deliberately make choices in your life that prioritize your feeling state over an arbitrary sum of money. And the way you do that is every time you come across a choice in your day-to-day life, imagine what you would do in an ideal scenario if money was no object, right? Like, let your imagination run wild here. And then after you imagine the craziest and most extravagant scenario that you can think of, and then here's the important part, okay? This is the step that's going to help jumpstart a million changes in your physical reality. Identify an action that you can take right now that would be in the same ballpark, like in the same vein of that crazy, fantastical scenario that you just imagined, except this is going to be something that you can realistically achieve within your means right now. But it's also like just a step above what you're normally used to allowing yourself to do, if that makes sense. So for example, if I were to take a business trip overseas, right, which I might do, I'm not sure actually, but let's say I had to travel somewhere in a plane for whatever reason. First, I would allow myself to imagine just the most extravagant scenario. The sky is the limit, literally in this case, right? No holding back, no fear of judgment from anyone. Just imagine the most extravagant, extreme scenario. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I would imagine myself, of course, flying in a private jet with champagne, velvet seats. And now, obviously, that particular option is way outside of my financial means at this moment, although it's still not impossible, right? Like somebody could gift me a private jet ride out of the blue. Truly nothing is impossible. But let's just say that the date is nearing and no one has offered me a private jet ride yet, and I'm still stuck with my normal premium economy ticket, which is great. I mean, I'm very happy and grateful that premium economy gets to be my normal as opposed to coach, right? But if I continue to only buy premium economy tickets, yeah, sure, it might be good enough, it might be comfortable enough, but it's not moving me forward or ascending me anyway on the abundance scale, right? So I can ask myself in this situation, okay, how can I do a less intense version of that private jet thing where it still feels like I'm experiencing something luxurious for myself at my current level, but not so much that it seems actually impossible, like it's not going to break my bank? Well, that's easy. I can upgrade my ticket to first class instead of just premium economy. First class, up in the sky.
First class, up in the sky, popping champagne, living my life.
The key here is that you need to actively resist that urge, that pull to go with the status quo of what you're used to. You have to push yourself, okay? Even if it's just an inch or a hair's width out of your comfort zone. We typically associate the idea of staying in our comfort zone as a way to avoid something negative or avoid a downgrade, so to speak, in an area of our life. But the truth is we actually use it as an excuse to not go for the bigger things and not go for something that is going to give us a net positive more often than not. Like, you would be surprised. And the reason is often that we have limitations or subconscious beliefs that we think we don't deserve it, or we're afraid that if we do dare to step outside our comfort zone, all of a sudden something's going to happen that's going to knock us off our pedestal. The universe is going to put us in our place and remind us not to overstep our bounds. That's a fear that is rooted in evolution, essentially. Fear was a very effective protection mechanism back then. It still is today, like very much so, but even more so back in the day, in the caveman days, right? To prevent us from literally getting chased and eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. However, if you're watching this video, you are someone that lives in the 21st century, or beyond, where a lot of our programming and our evolutionary instincts are not really useful or applicable anymore in our current system. So you have to start taking deliberate steps to get over that fear of doing more for yourself, as if it's going to result in some bad karma for you, because it's not. If you're not hurting anyone, why would you get any bad karma? Baby steps are fine, but you have to really pay attention, doing the small things and making the small choices every day that is going to actually move you forward. It's going to be this huge compounded snowball effect that's really going to help you catapult your manifestations in the long run. And the reason I put small in quotations is because there's actually no difference between big and small. Like the scale of a manifestation is actually irrelevant. It's an arbitrary measure, just like money is arbitrary. A manifestation is a manifestation, period, no matter which way you cut it, whether it's a cup of coffee or 1 cent on the ground or $1,000. Let me give you an even more mundane example, because I realize that even just stepping onto a plane or traveling outside of your home country, even that alone is still kind of a lofty thing for many people out there, and that's totally fine. Everyone has different circumstances and starting points. So let me just give you a more everyday example from my own life that I think pretty much anyone watching this can find some version of this in their own day-to-day lives that they can use to start implementing this practice. So if you follow me on Instagram, or even if you have watched some of my recent shorts, you'll know that I have been completely and utterly obsessed with the new Elvis biopic for the past month or so. I went to see it not one, not two, but 3 times in theaters. It's actually kind of crazy because, well, first of all, I rarely ever go to the theater to see a movie, let alone 3 times for the same movie. The last time I went to the theater was actually over a year ago, believe it or not, and that was for a date with some guy. So it wasn't even my original desire. I just went along with someone else's suggestion. And I don't think I ever watched the same movie in theaters even twice before in my life, let alone 3 times. So growing up, my family had very humble beginnings. We weren't destitute or anything, but my parents definitely had to work super hard. And we came from humble beginnings. So as a family, we were just very frugal, right? Even by the time that we got financially stable, by the time I entered high school, entertainment activities such as music concerts or going to the movies and stuff were seen for the most part as like just really unnecessary luxuries. I only ever started to go occasionally to the theater when I became of high school age, because that's what teenagers do, right? Whenever my friends would want to go, I would just tag along. But it was always my friends that wanted to go first, and then I would just tag along. And even though my parents never said no to me per se, like they would always give me the money, of course, and even enough to get a drink and popcorn and all of that good stuff. The way I grew up, I just always felt that, okay, but at the end of the day, this is still kind of a waste of money, right? Because I don't get anything tangible out of it, which is also a very limited way to think about value. That something is worth it only when you have an actual tangible object in your hands to show for it. I definitely don't think that way anymore, but this was the mindset that I was in at the time, and unfortunately, a mindset that a lot of adults these days are still trapped in. And if I'm going to be really honest, I think I also had some sort of personal grudge against movies and maybe like the acting profession in general, especially if it involved Hollywood. So that made me not want to support the industry as a whole, but we won't get into that today. So this is nothing against my parents, by the way, but I could feel that their belief system, specifically when it came to movies and other leisure activities, even without them saying anything specifically, which I actually don't think they ever did, but even without them verbalizing it, this belief system transferred itself to me just through their DNA and through living with them, being around them all the time. Come to think of it, I rarely ever saw either of them go to a theater. I can count on one hand probably the amount of times that my mom went to a proper like sit down theater to watch a movie in my entire childhood. And then my dad never. He would watch a lot of movies on TV whenever they would have them on replay, but he would never go to the actual cinema. And then, of course, we would rent stuff, right? This was back in the Blockbuster days. And the idea at the time was that, well, you get a better deal that way because when you rent something, you can watch it as many times as you want. And so that's how I would measure the value of the experience of watching the movie. Like, how much watch time can I get out of this VHS or DVD? And not even considering that people go to the theater for a completely different experience, right? They want the thrill and excitement of seeing something on the big screen. That's a different value proposition than being able to watch a DVD as many times as you want within 1 week. Both of them are valid, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to what you personally want. But yeah, so getting back to the point, without even my parents verbalizing certain things to me, I just naturally internalized from our overall frugal lifestyle that certain activities, such as going to the movies or getting my nails done or whatever, all of that kind of stuff was just an extravagant expenditure. They don't really serve to add anything significant to your life in the long run, and that was my belief at the time. Well, fast forward to 2022, right? I watched Elvis 3 times in theater. It was about to be 4 times almost, but then I got slammed with work at the last minute last week, which is fine. I was planning on going the last day that they were screening it at this random theater in Shibuya that I've never been to, because it was the last theater in the entire Kanto region still screening Elvis. Can someone explain to me, by the way, why is Top Gun 2 forever screening in theaters? Like, Top Gun was screening before Elvis came out and after Elvis came out, even up until now. To this very day, I think Top Gun is still playing in movie theaters. Even my local theater, like in the suburbs, it's still dedicating 2 to 3 screens a day to Top Gun alone. Why is the Elvis movie not being treated with the same fanfare and respect? It's the Scientology of it all for me, and I am not with it. I'm just really annoyed that Elvis got such a short playtime in comparison. Maybe I should make a separate video on the whole Elvis movie thing because it's actually kind of crazy. I love the movie in and of itself, obviously, but it's not even really about the movie. It's more like everything surrounding the movie, from the actual Elvis Presley's real life and how remarkable it was, to the story of Austin Butler, who is the actor that portrayed him, who is not a newcomer per se in the industry, but I think prior to this Elvis role, he has only been doing very lighter roles in like Nickelodeon shows, and I think he was in the Carrie Diaries as well. I mean, like, no shade, those are very popular, well-known TV shows regardless, and you gotta do what you gotta do as an up-and-coming actor. But for me personally, this was the first time that I have ever heard of the name Austin Butler, and you can tell he knows that that's the case for the majority of people watching the Elvis movie. When I looked into it more, I saw that he dedicated like the past 2 years of his life pretty much to prepare for this role. He was determined to match the mannerisms and the voice and the dancing, everything perfectly to a T. You can tell how dedicated he was to this role, and it obviously paid off. All of this knowledge combined with just the pure enjoyment of the movie, it really ignited something within me, and it actually jump-started a whole chain of events that led to me getting my first voiceover job for an electronics company without having any prior experience in that industry. It was my first time ever in a professional recording studio booth, and the whole experience was just really cool. And I got paid at the end. The money did come after the end of the whole inner work journey. They paid me 10,000 yen for an hour's worth of work, which is not bad for a first gig. But do you see how in that situation the money came as almost an afterthought? Like, it was truly the last thing on my mind. It was the very, very last step in the whole manifestation process, and of course not at all what I focused on when I was trying to book the gig. You know, I might do a separate video on that manifestation alone, because that one actually goes pretty deep. Well, all of my manifestations go deep, but yeah, for that one in particular, I can literally break down the exact sequence of events that led to that opportunity unfolding for me. I have receipts too, like I have screenshots of conversations with people that I knew and stuff that I wrote down in my manifestation notebook in the weeks leading up to it. So if you're interested in me sharing the details of that little manifestation story, drop a microphone down in the comments. See, this is the hard part about trying to organize my thoughts for manifestation videos, because truly everything is so connected together. It's almost like I cannot talk about one topic only without leaving out like 95% of the bigger picture. Your manifestations, especially the bigger ones, they're not all neatly separated into little compartments for you as your life unfolds. You are constantly manifesting all day, every day, and the things that come to fruition for you in some area, they will inevitably serve as stepping stones or a bridge to manifestations that you're trying to make happen in other areas of your life. So it truly is all interconnected and intertwined in a way that is so perfect that we could never imagine. But then at the same time, it's like when you talk about it or when you want to try and teach it to people, you do need to sort of limit yourself to 1 or 2 topics per video in the interest of time and also to make the concepts more digestible to people. So it's a balance for sure. But the point I wanted to make here with the going to see the Elvis movie so many times example is that, okay, so I went multiple times to get the big screen experience, right? Which already right then and there, it broke this mindset that I've held ever since I was a little child in the single digits, that nobody has a reason to go to the theater more than once for a single movie. And I've never done this for any other movie before, but when I saw Elvis for the first time, I knew immediately, I could feel it in me that, oh, this is what people must be talking about when they say that, oh, I just had to go see this movie 3 times or 5 times in the theater. It doesn't come along very often for me, honestly, a movie that I genuinely like, especially nowadays. But I knew immediately that I had found the one movie that had been released in recent times that I actually wanted to indulge myself in the big screen viewing experience over and over again. So I took that feeling of knowing and just raw excitement and I leaned into it, right? I followed its lead. The second layer to this is that here in Tokyo, it costs on average 1900 yen depending on the length of the movie, but usually it's 1900 yen for one regular adult movie ticket, which is insane because I remember when I was in elementary school, it was as low as $6 or $8, but I guess that's what 20 years of inflation will do for you. So the normal going price is 1900 yen for one adult movie ticket, right? And then usually, depending on the cinema group, they will have discount days every week, like Wednesdays are 1200 yen for adults or something. The older, less abundant version of me would have definitely booked my tickets for those discount days, right? Because it's like 1200 yen, 1900 yen, that's 700 yen you're saving there. But this time around, I actually deliberately chose the days with the regular ticket price of 1900 yen. Can you guess why? And no, it was not just for the heck of it or to throw money away. The theater gets super crowded on discount days, as you can imagine. People be dragging all their 5 children and distant cousins, and then of course they all sit behind me or in front of me, chomping on their popcorn, blocking my view, and I don't have time for it, okay? I want to watch my movie in an empty to moderately populated theater, okay, with ample space between me and the next customer. That is what I consider way more valuable than saving 700 yen on a ticket. Because if I go with the cheaper option, I'm more likely to have a poor viewing experience, which defeats the whole purpose of going in the first place. I know this seems a little bit counterintuitive because it's like, okay, Ren, you just told us though that money is not the central focus or should not be, but now here you are telling us to spend more money in certain situations, so then aren't you focusing on the money anyway? Let me clarify. Yes, there are many cases in which getting the more expensive option does happen to result in a better and higher vibration experience for you overall. That is because of capitalism, which is a very advanced and sophisticated system by this point in human history. Capitalism has wised up to what the average person considers to be low or mid-tier or a high-tier experience. And it has thus priced things accordingly in most industries. However, we as individuals, we have individual preferences and likes and wants and needs that do not necessarily line up with the average data of the general population. So this means that sometimes the opposite scenario is actually true for you individually. For example, sometimes you would rather stay in and spend a night at home as opposed to going out on the town with your friends. Shout out to all my introverts out there. Everyone knows, especially if you live in a big city, how much it costs to actually spend a night out on the town. If you tally up all the drinks and the dinner and entertainment versus chilling at home with a 200 yen drink from the konbini, yeah, you would be saving hella cash in that scenario, but then you would also be feeling genuinely more fulfilled and content because you were able to enjoy your precious alone time. So what I'm trying to say here is that you should, as often as you can, prioritize your first and true underlying desire in any situation. Your truest core desire. Consciously overcome your urge to think of value from a monetary perspective and then start placing that value in areas where it truly matters to you. The feeling that something gives you or the restfulness that a certain choice will bring you. In some cases, it does require more money, like a premium fee, to get the best version of an experience that you want. Sometimes it goes the opposite way. Sometimes the more expensive option is not necessarily the one that matches your personal desire the best. Another example, I love bubble tea. Where's my bubble tea gang out there? Leave a bubble tea emoji down in the comments if you made it this far in the video, by the way. Thank you so much. I love bubble tea, but do you know, this may surprise you to hear, it has actually been years and years since I've actually drinking a bubble tea with the tapioca pearls inside it. So I essentially just drink regular milk tea. Don't come for me, okay? I'm not being blasphemous. No, I do genuinely like the taste of tapioca. Actually, it's super fun to chew and I think it tastes good, especially if it's made fresh. But the thing is, it's empty calories, you know? And at the end of the day, I don't feel good about consuming empty carbs and calories. Not to mention the sugar content is so high already in the tea. I don't need more sugar from the pearls on top of that. I feel bloated and super lethargic afterwards, so it's just not a good net outcome for me to drink bubble tea with tapioca pearls. There's enough sugar and yumminess and all of that good stuff in just the tea itself, which is plenty enough for me to get my fix without putting myself into like a 3-hour nap food coma. So because of this, I never opt to get tapioca with my bubble tea drink, which usually costs extra at the place that I normally go to, Gongcha. So my drink actually always comes out to be slightly cheaper than that of the average customer, which is a nice little side effect. But the key here is that I'm not coming from a place of wanting to pinch a few pennies or pinch a few yen by omitting the tapioca. It just happens that I genuinely enjoy my tea better without. So as you can see, once again, the money itself is not a factor in the equation. It doesn't even come until the end when I'm paying for the drink. I could give you a million more examples where I practice this in my everyday life, but we would be here forever. Toilet paper, oh my god. Last one, I promise. Buy the good 2-ply soft toilet paper, please, okay? Your bum deserves it. Just pay the extra 50 cents or $1 or whatever it costs to get the good toilet paper, okay? I'm telling you, like, your bum deserves it, and it's just not worth it to save 50 cents, but then have to use bad quality toilet paper, like public bathroom company toilet paper. The horror. Okay, I think this is a good place to end it on toilet paper, yeah. I know it's a lot of information at once to digest, but hopefully you can start to see now that the real work here is to become intimately familiar with yourself, identify and know without a shadow of a doubt your own wants and desires, and then take action, starting in baby steps if you need to get yourself closer and closer to the lofty end goals that you have. Oftentimes that means pushing yourself to take the next step or to go to the next level when you know in your gut that something is going to bring you a lot of joy, which will in turn increase your manifestation mojo, which in turn increases money flow. Do you see how the order that it comes in? And again, even though you may understand something on the conceptual or logical level, if that's something that you're not used to putting into practice in the 3D, it's almost guaranteed that that age-old, cave woman urge of playing it safe is going to rear its ugly head. It's just going to want to take over and keep you in your comfort zone. That is just how our brains are wired as humans. So you have to be the one to consciously choose to take control and choose to override that urge, because that's the only way that your abundance bubble can expand. That's why I recommend starting very small with everyday little things that you enjoy, right? Like getting the extra pump of vanilla in your latte or getting the extra rhinestone detailing on your gel nails. Don't let yourself get caught up in the back and forth between, oh, yeah, I can afford it, but should I really be spending $10 on rhinestones? Isn't that a waste? Don't let yourself get caught up into that, okay? Because that is simply guilt conditioning. Like, there is no such thing as what is worth it and what is not worth it. It's arbitrary. It's worth it if it raises your vibration, right? Like, think about if you get gel nails and, you're stuck staring at that design for the next 3 weeks at least. So what would you rather have? Would you rather have the same old, simple one color design that doesn't spark any excitement or joy? It sparks nothing in you. You're just like blah when you look at it. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have the sparkly rhinestones and the cute decorations that's going to give you that jolt of positive energy and giddiness every time you look down at your nails? And before you know it, you're like networking and meeting new people and getting along with people that can help you get to higher places in life, because your overall mood is happier and more pleasant. Therefore, people are going to be more drawn to you. And before you know it, amazing things are happening to you, all because you decided that you were worth spending a little extra $10 on some rhinestones for. I would say that's a great return on investment. So keeping it honest with you, manifestation is a constant work in progress. It requires a lot of introspection and self-auditing, especially if you're in the beginning of your journey or if you're new to this. So if that doesn't sound like something that you're willing to do for the rest of your life, then maybe this game is not for you. And I'm just putting that very bluntly for you. And it's fine if that's you, right? If you're just one of those people that's like, you know what, this is too much work and pressure. I will just take life as it comes and do my best with whatever random things the universe gives me. That's fine. But if you do want to have more control in the actual outcome of your life, and if you want to get into the manifestation game for real, just be prepared and know that it is a constant practice and checking in with yourself, holding yourself accountable from day to day and moment to moment. You have to be able to straight up just identify and decide what it is that you desire experientially. Is that a word? Be decisive about experiences that you want to have on this planet. Be specific, but then be open about the means through which things happen for you, right? The vehicle for your manifestation can come through various avenues, but the manifestation itself, go ahead and be specific about what exactly it is that you want so that the universe can fine-tune things to your liking, right? Why not? And the way to do that is to periodically audit yourself about how you feel when certain choices or options pop up for you in your 3D reality. Take note of the actual physiological response in your body that gets triggered in certain situations, whether they're positive or negative. In this case, we're talking about positive or happy situations, abundant situations. So how does that feel for you in your actual flesh body? It can vary from person to person. For me, it's usually a feeling of, expansiveness and openness, particularly in the chest area. I feel the energy really coursing through my body and mostly through this top part of my body. It's something that will make me physically stand taller and hold my head up higher. It's like the physical manifestation of, I'm open to what life has to offer and I'm not trying to shield myself or close myself off to something because I'm afraid of something potentially bad happening. Another great emotion that I recognize immediately, that's one of my personal favorites, is when I feel giddy about something. Like when I just can't contain my happiness and excitement. I usually feel that higher up in my shoulder area and sometimes in the neck. It kind of starts up here and then it travels up the shoulders to my neck. And this is going to sound weird, but I get to the point where I can feel the energy almost physically pushing up the corners of my mouth into a smile. My entire face lights up and I can't help but to smile or laugh because the feeling is just so overpowering. I think we've all experienced that, as well as the polar opposite. Those days where you're just so bogged down and depressed, it's like if you have to force a smile while feeling like that, it can almost seem like hauling a boulder up a mountain, right? So the reason I like giddiness, and I think it's a very, very useful state to put yourself in, is because it's a very pure, childlike emotion. So when I get not just normal excited, but when I get giddy about something, that's when I know I'm hitting on a desire and a feeling that is really, really pure. It's a desire that was always within me since I was a child, before I was influenced by all the crap and conditioning of the outside world. Let's recap this technique, or this practice as I like to call it. First, identify and be aware of the little things, big and small, in your 3D reality right now that bring you into a feeling state of abundance. And then secondly, do whatever you can within your means now in order to immerse yourself into that state as often as possible through everyday opportunities or small pleasures. The energy high that you will get from these experiences will compound and call in more abundance for you, which will in turn call in more money. Thirdly, last but not least, you must make the conscious and constant efforts to push yourself out of your comfort zone, starting with these everyday, smaller activities. Make it a habit to push yourself into choosing the upgraded version of whatever thing that you normally like to do. Your body will literally let you know what this next step should be when you feel a mixture of that giddy, excited, childlike energy that I just described, along with a little bit of anxiety and trepidation. So that anxiety part is your outdated cave woman brain trying to just it thinks it's protecting you, right? So it just wants you to hide and stay at the level that you're comfortable with. But you must override it, okay? Over and over again. You need to choose to go to that next level, and you're going to have to repeat the process as much as you want to ascend up that ladder. Before I end this video, I feel like I tried to end it 3 times already, but for real this time, let me just say, it might take you some time to even fully own or be able to admit, be able to identify your true desires. And that's fine, but you should take this step very seriously because it truly is the foundation for everything. A lot of us have been programmed and taught since we were young children on what we're supposed to desire, what we're supposed to go after in life, even though that might not actually align with what we truly desire at all. And this is the case with a lot of women in particular, because we have so many double standards and expectations, twisted expectations placed on us as a result of sexism and modern day feminism. Just all of this crap that, depending on how easily you are influenced by outside factors. I actually consider myself pretty lucky in this regard because I've always had a very strong personality and I've always known exactly what I wanted, even if it went against the grain. But I did run into frustrations for sure, turning my raw desires into actual reality. Only recently, I would say in like the past few years of my life, have I been consistently successful in alchemizing things skillfully in the 3D. But for many people, not even just women, human beings in general, the conditioning that they receive early on in life, it can drown out the truest desires of their soul to the point where they're just numb to everything. And numbness is a defense mechanism to prevent you from feeling the pain or the unpleasantness of realizing or admitting that the life you're leading is actually not the one that you want ultimately. Unfortunately, many people spend decades or even their entire life in this state, and I don't want you to be one of those people. So I'm here to say that regardless of whatever you experienced in your childhood or what you were conditioned to believe and want, you owe it to yourself to denumbify yourself and find a way to let those true raw desires, emotions, and feelings shine through. The first step, it's not even step 1, it's more like step 0, is to allow yourself to want what you want, right? Even if it's not politically correct or you're scared that your parents or whoever else in your life is not going to approve, you have to be true to yourself in this sense. You don't have to tell people if you know that they're gonna have a bad reaction to it. You don't owe that to anyone, even your own parents, but you have to be true to yourself. When it comes to your inner dialogue, there's only so much time that you can lie to yourself for before the charade falls. You're not gonna be able to lie to your own heart for very long. And only once you accept what you really desire out of life, only then can the real work begin. Okay, I am losing my voice, so we're gonna end this Slytherin manifestation lecture here today. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to leave any questions or requests for future videos, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye!